Hey everybody. So it's been a really long time since I've made one of these, but I figured it was time to bring it back. And the reason I've been gone for so long is because I've had a lot of life changes since that last video. I hinted at what was about to happen in the last video, but I never really got to it. I quit my job. I left my career that I was in, and I am back at university to formally study computer science. So naturally, that's changed quite a bit about how this series is going to be. Originally, the idea was I was going to be a self-taught developer, and I was going to study different classes and different coding styles and talk to you guys about it as I learned it. But now that I'm not self-taught anymore, that doesn't really work. And the other reason for having this video series was to record my education for future employers. I could send them a link to these YouTube videos. They could ask, well, when did you learn this? How did you learn this? Well, I can tell you about it a little bit, and also here's my video series of me talking about everything I've learned. So it was both a portfolio piece and also a piece to help other self-taught developers. That's still kind of my goal for this channel. I'm just going to do it a little bit differently. So what I think I'm going to do now is I am going to make this a weekly vlog where I discuss what I've been learning in my classes this week. Obviously not showing any source code from any of my projects for classes, due to plagiarism reasons and all that. But just talk about concepts that we're learning in classes. And also, I think every computer science student should take some time and work on independent projects of their own, build little apps that they're interested in, to have something on their GitHub account that's not all from their school, and show that to employers. So the goal for this, each week I'm going to talk about concepts I've learned in class and then talk about one of my personal projects. And with my personal project, I'll show you guys the code. Probably won't be very good, definitely not the start, but that's kind of what this channel is about. This channel isn't about being a great developer, it's about learning how to become a better developer. Those two things go hand in hand, but I think they are different. One thing that's really valuable to me in education is not being ashamed of your mistakes. Try something, and if it's terrible, well, you learn something. You learn not to do it that way again, which I think is just as valuable. I think it's just as valuable to learn how not to do things than it is to learn how to do them. So that's kind of going to be what this channel is. It's a lot of it is going to be a video journal of my projects, and it's also going to be, I hope it turns into a communication-based system for other developers. So let me tell you a little bit about the classes I'm in now. When I was originally at university, I took the 2 Introduction to Computer Science classes, Introduction to Programmatic Thinking 1 and 2, something like that. It's something stereotypical, right? And then I also took Calculus 1. So right now, I have to finish Calculus 2 before I can officially be a CS major. So it's something I'm throwing out there right now. I'm not a CS major right now. Hopefully, if I pass Calc 2 this semester, I will be a computer science major next semester. Because it was a last-minute decision to come back to school, I wasn't able to get into very many of my computer science classes. That's the one thing I'm not liking about this semester. The good side of it, though, is I have really front-loaded this semester with math. The first time I came to school, I got all my liberal studies out of the way. Now I'm getting all my math out of the way. After this semester, I will have one more math class, and then it's all computer science for the rest of my education, which is great. So right now, as I mentioned, I'm taking Calc 2, which is what it sounds like, Calculus 2. Right now we're doing the 4 integral strategies. So, normal stuff. Stats. I took AP Stats in high school, and I loved it. It's all the same stuff. Stats are stats, if you've ever taken a class. Those of you who don't know, statistics is the study of probability, the mathematical likelihood that events will or will not occur. For those of you who don't know what calculus is the study of a function's behavior as it changes. That's not a formal definition. So if my professor is watching this and sees this and face palms, I'm sorry. Then my last math class is a very interesting one. From what I understand, most computer science students have to take a class like this, but the name changes based on your school. This one is called the Introduction to Logic and Proof. It's what it sounds like. How to write mathematical proofs. I'll be upfront, it is as much of a pain as it sounds. But it's not terrible. It's very time consuming because naturally you can't write an equation and just write the steps out and boom, you're done. You have to write actual English appropriate paragraphs about your mathematical thoughts. So that, I don't want to say it's hard, and I don't want to say it's unpleasant. It's just new. I've noticed I purposely waited about 5 weeks into the semester before making this video because I wanted to come in and actually know what I'm talking about, mostly for logic and proof. I found as I get more comfortable with it, it's not as scary, not as tedious. It's a little bit more enjoyable just because it's not as, whoa, what is this? And then the last class I'm taking is my only computer science class. And what I do like about it is it's not a specific idea in the class. It's software development. It's essentially the continuation of the introduction classes. Okay, now that you know the basic ideas of how to write programs, let's learn how to write them correctly or intelligently. And this class is broken up into 4 or 5 parts. We just got done with the first part, which is another reason I thought this was a good time. The first part was JavaScript. When I took these classes too many years ago, both the introduction classes were in Java. Since then, that's changed. The first introduction class is in Python, then I switched to Java in the second class. So the beginning of this next class was another language. Learn how to write somewhat useful, not redundant code in a new language. But here's the thing. You had 1 semester per language in the first 2 classes, and now you had 4 weeks in the second one. So the idea was, okay, you know how to write code now, so learning languages should become faster. That's kind of what I inferred to be the purpose of that. And also because JavaScript is such a big staple. If you are a front-end web developer, you will use JavaScript. If you're a back-end developer, there's a good chance you're going to use Node.js. From what I understand, there's now a JavaScript framework for mobile app development. So if you're writing Android or Apple apps, there's a good chance you'll be using JavaScript soon if you're not already. So it's really taking over. And you know, I have my thoughts on JavaScript. It's okay. It's not my favorite. I'm still a huge fan of Java. Love Java. But, you know, my opinion wasn't really important. You know, they didn't ask me what language I wanted to learn when I took the class. And JavaScript's not a bad language. It's been fun. But what I'm really excited for now is now we're leaving language-specific stuff and we're talking about just programming ideals in general. So the first part was JavaScript, which was, it was fun to learn, but I don't think I enjoyed it very much because I was excited to get to the other parts of the class. We are now starting Linux command tools. So like most universities that I've heard of, you do most of your programming from the command line on the server held at the school. I don't know if most schools are like that, but that's how my university is. All the code I write for my university, I don't do on my computer. I do it on the server, and I SSH into the server, and I have my own, you know, I guess partition, my own folder there, and you know, I get to do with it as I please, assuming I don't break anything. And that server, from what I understand, is Ubuntu. So obviously we know some Linux stuff, how to get in and out of directories, make files, remove files, the Java, Python, and Node command line systems, things like that. We know the basics. But we're really digging into, 1, more of what Linux is, and 2, how to use it appropriately. So I'm looking forward to that. I've always been a huge Linux fan. I'm using a MacBook computer right now, which is similar in spirit to Linux. Both are built on Unix. I know there's some people cringing that they're nothing alike, but whatever. I do enjoy using Linux systems. So I'm enjoying this part of the class. So far, we just talked about directories and moving around those directories in a more masterful way, not cd dot dot 30 times to get to the home folder, things like that, things that we kind of already know, but solidifying the thoughts. I'm hoping we'll learn how to write some shell scripts. That's always been really interesting to me. I've always seen other people writing them, but I've never taken the time to learn them myself, and that seems really cool, and I'm excited to learn about that. I hope we do. After this part, I don't predict this being a very long part of the class, to be honest, largely because we have another class called Linux Command Tools. I don't believe it's required. I think it's an elective, but it's a class where you just really dig in and learn how to Linux. I intend to take that elective when the opportunity presents itself. The next part of the class is going to be about version control. I think we'll be using Git and GitHub. Love GitHub. I've used it some, but I'm by no means a master of it. I essentially use my GitHub as a cloud storage right now, which is not what it's meant to be. So I'm looking forward to learning how to be more productive in creating forks and merging and things like that, and pull requests. I'm excited for that. Next part of the class will be more work in JavaScript. We'll be learning unit testing, which I learned unit testing in depth in Java in the British Columbia classes, object-oriented design, and what are they called? Unit testing? I don't remember the names of those classes. Software development, object-oriented design, software development, data structures, maybe? I don't think so. But whatever. That's the idea. So I got to learn testing in Java, so I understand the idea, but every language, the testing, not so much the testing mindsets change, but the testing syntax changes. So I'm looking forward to learning that, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And then the last part of the class is about intelligent object-oriented design, design patterns, observer pattern, overseer pattern, things like that sort of thing. So that's what this class is going to be. And then next semester, I really dig into the software development classes, and I'm so ready for that. Having completely left teaching behind, I am working with a local high school about 30 minutes away. I worked with them the first time I was in university, and I'm very good friends with the director there. And when I was coming back, he was all about me coming back and helping. So teaching's not completely gone, but just the ratio has changed. I'm really looking forward to that. So that's the end of the vloggy portion of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this video, and for you guys, it will immediately go on to me talking about a project I've been working on. I've been working on my portfolio, and I'll talk to you guys about that. See you in a minute. Okay, hey everybody. So as I just mentioned, I have been working on a personal project of my own. All right, let me reorganize my windows and all that. There we go. And it's just a snake game in Java. It's very simple. It's not done yet. It's just something I've been working on. Thought I would share with you guys. So let's take a look at the file tree. Okay. And basically what's happened is I have a output folder and a source code folder. And in my source code folder, I have two subdirectories. One with game pieces, which are the actual parts of the game. So we've got the apple class, the snake piece class, and then under utilities we have things that just make the game run, like the window and the class that runs the whole game, and where I can draw things onto the window and that sort of thing. So we'll take a look at that. All right, let's step into the source folder, and I guess the first thing let's look at is stuff in the game pieces. Okay, so the first thing I've got is an apple that randomly generates somewhere on the game window. You know, you've played Snake, and that's the thing the snake is trying to eat as it goes through what it's doing. So, you know, this one's pretty simple. We've got two fields, X and Y. Our apple takes in a height and a width. That's the height and width of the window. So that tells us, you know, where things need to go. That tells us, obviously if the window is only 800 pixels wide, we don't want to generate the apple 1,000 pixels for the x value or so on. So that limits that, and it generates it randomly. Here's some debug code just to help me find every time I make an apple, I know what its x and y values are. Then getters and setters. That's really it for the apple functionality. Let's take a look at snake pieces. Okay. I don't know why it's not there. It's odd. Game pieces. Snake piece, singular. Sorry. So similarly, it's got an X and a Y value. And when it's made, it just has those. And then after that, it's just getters and setters. This one doesn't do much of anything. It's kind of used exclusively for the snake. Excuse me. Game pieces snake.java. All right, there's a bit more to it. And I know this code doesn't look very good right now. I just wanted to get it running so I could show you. And what it does is it's an array list of snake pieces. That way, when the snake eats an apple, I can add a piece to it without having to write a new one. I thought array list was a good start for that. I've arbitrarily defined it to start with 3. I could change that whenever I wanted. And the way this works is it takes in a height and a width, just like we were talking about with the apple. That way it sets that snake head to be in the middle of the width and the middle of the height. So pretty much the middle of the screen. But then each piece added is 10 pixels lower, and that just creates the snake form. And again, some debug code for me to see. And then there's a get pieces for the drawing class, so it knows where all the snake pieces are, where to draw them, and the size of our array list, so we can return a score to the user. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the actual pieces. Let's go into the utilities, which is really just the actual thought of the game. Let's take a look at the drawing canvas. So the drawing canvas has 2 fields, an apple and a snake. And really the whole job of the drawing canvas is to draw those 2 things. So the first thing it does is it creates a 3D rectangle with the apple's X and Y values through their getters, 10 pixels wide, 10 pixels high, and true for it to be seen. And then what I do is I change the color to green. Okay, it would change it to green. And as you notice, I used to have a bug here that I fixed, some more debug code. And then for each piece in the snake, it's going to draw that piece. Okay, and then here's the constructor where we assign. So let's look at the window now. And the window's job is to get the canvas onto the screen. So it calls JFrame with the name snake, because that's the name of the game. It says it to be true. Close on default, exit on close. That's pretty standard. Set the size of the window to be the width and the height, which is passed in through the game, which I'll show you in a moment. Create a new apple, create a new snake. JPanel, set. Then I create my canvas, which is the drawing canvas we saw earlier, where it draws the apple and the snake. The background is black. That's arbitrary. That's just what I prefer. Set the size of the panel to be the size of the window, so there's no blank space. Add the canvas to the panel, and then add the panel to the window. So it's a very standard GUI setup for Java. All right, and let's take a look at game.java, which is painfully simple. I created this should be static. Let's fix that. Actually, no, it shouldn't. Sorry. Where I just set my height, my width to be 800. I set that right here, so if I need to change it, I can just come back and change it again, and then create that window with it. So that's pretty simple. So let's let's take a look at the game in action. Java utility / game. And I couldn't find it. Why is that? Oh, sorry, I moved it. Sorry, I'm in the source code folder. Let's go to the output where we have the binary. I'm struggling today, guys. It's Sunday. I'm not supposed to be thinking. All right, and as you can see, we have our snake in the middle. Okay, it's in a window called snake, and we have our apple right here just below it. And let's make sure this is random by doing it again. And as you can see, our apple's over here now. All right, so that's really what I have so far. It's not a whole lot, but it's something. And hopefully by next week, I at least want to make the snake able to move around. And if I'm ambitious and if I find time throughout the week, I'm going to make it so that the user can control where the snake goes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Another plugin I want to put is I also have created a GitHub and a website. So I'm going to put links to that in the description. So if you want to check out my GitHub, there's all my stuff. And if you want to check out my website, you can check that out too. Hope you guys are enjoying this. If there's anything specific you want me to discuss, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll get back to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.